All right, Minerva and Brian, are you ready for this? Because today we are diving deep into the Coba ruins.
Yeah, Coba, it's really fascinating because it's kind of unique as Mayan cities go.
Unique how?
Well, a lot of times people think of Mayan cities as like a single site, like Chichen Itza.
Right, with that one big pyramid that everybody
Yeah,
goes to.
exactly. But Coba is really more like a network of settlements.
Oh, so it's spread out over a larger area.
Yeah, exactly. It's spread out, and all these settlements are connected by these amazing roads called Sakbiob.
Sacbio.
Yeah, means white road in Mayan. And there were these raised roads built by the Maya, and some of them were really long, like the longest one stretched over 60 miles.
60 miles. That's incredible. Did they just connect different parts of Coba, or did they go beyond that?
Oh, they definitely went beyond Koba. They
Hmm.
connected to other cities and important sites all over the region.
Wow, so they were like the ancient highways of the Mayan world.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And here's something else that's really mind-blowing about Koba. We've only uncovered a tiny fraction of it.
Really? How tiny are we talking?
Like only about 1% of the estimated 70 square kilometers has been excavated.
So there's still so much more out there waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. It's like a giant puzzle with most of the pieces still missing.
So before we get lost in the mystery, let's get oriented.
Mm.
Where exactly is Coba?
Well, picture the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Specifically, the state of Quintana Roo, Coba, is nestled right between these two lagoons.
Oh, so water played a key role here.
Absolutely. Those lagoons and the fertile land around them were essential to Coba's growth. You see, Coba started out as just a small farming settlement back in the 1st century AD. But by the late Classic period, around 600 to 900 AD, its population had exploded to an estimated 50,000 people.
So from humble beginnings to a major Mayan hub, that's quite a leap.
It is. And it wasn't just agriculture that fueled that
Oh,
growth.
they were trading as well.
Oh, yeah, big time. They controlled these key trade routes and were sending goods like salt honey and even precious jade as far as Honduras.
That's incredible.
Mm.
We're talking about a level of sophistication and reach that rivaled some of the great empires of the time.
Exactly. And it wasn't just men running the show either.
Right. I read about these amazing female rulers of Coba.
Yes. The stories of Ixiquupat and Ixiquewel Aja are fascinating. They governed around 500 AD, and their reigns were marked by prosperity and expansion.
It's so cool to see women in positions of power challenging those assumptions about ancient civilizations.
Absolutely. So we have a sprawling city, advanced infrastructure, and powerful women in charge. Let's talk about what you guys absolutely can't miss when you visit.
Okay, let's hear it. What's the must-see attraction at Coba?
Well, the crown jewel has to be the Nohak Mul Pyramid. It's the tallest pyramid in the entire Yucatan Peninsula, standing at 42 meters high.
Wow, 42 meters. I'm guessing you can climb to the top?
You used to be able to climb it. Imagine climbing those 120 steps to the summit and taking in those panoramic views of the jungle and lagoons.
That sounds incredible. What a view.
It was breathtaking. Unfortunately, climbing is no longer allowed as of 2020.
Oh, bummer. But I guess we can still soak in that ancient energy from the ground.
Absolutely. Even from the ground, the sheer size and grandeur of Nohak Mul are awe-inspiring.
So no scaling the pyramid for us. Noted. Now tell me more about those amazing roads, the Sac Bube. Did they just connect different parts of the city, or did they go beyond Coba?
Oh no, they went way beyond Coba. They were the lifelines of the Mayan world, stretching for miles and connecting cities, ceremonial centers, and important resources.
It's mind-blowing to think about the merchants, pilgrims, and messengers who walked those same paths centuries ago. What a powerful connection to the past.
And it really speaks to Mayan ingenuity. Imagine building these roads without modern tools or technology.
Incredible. Speaking of amazing things the Maya built, let's talk about those intricately carved stone slabs, the stele. They're like ancient storybooks, right?
Exactly. Each stela is like a window into Coba's history, beliefs, and culture.
What kinds of things are depicted on these stele?
You'll see rulers, both male and female, often in elaborate costumes. They offer glimpses into ceremonies, rituals, and even the fashion trends of the time.
So they're like a combination of art and historical record.
Precisely. And they're not just pretty pictures. The Maya developed this complex system of hieroglyphic writing, and those stelae are covered in these glyphs, recording historical events, genealogies, even astronomical observations.
So we better brush up on our Mayan glyphs before we go. What else should we put on our must-see list?
Well, you won't want to miss the other architectural wonders of Coba, like the Coba group near the entrance, which includes a structure called the Iglesia. It offers a fantastic view of the Macansac Lagoon.
So it's like standing in the city center where all the important decisions were made.
Yeah, you could say that. Then there's the Macansac group itself, which is a little further out. This area was a place of deep spiritual significance, with numerous stelae and altars scattered throughout.
Wow, Coba wasn't just one big pyramid. It was a whole complex city with different neighborhoods and purposes.
Exactly. It was a thriving urban center.
Sounds like we'll need at least a full day to explore everything.
Oh, yeah, you want to give yourselves plenty of time.
Okay, we've talked about its rise to power, but what about its decline? Did it just fade away, or was there a more dramatic ending?
Well, it wasn't a sudden collapse. Koba had its share of challenges, especially around 900 to 1000 AD, when competition with powerful city-states like Chichen Itza started heating up.
So there were some power struggles going on.
Definitely. Control over trade routes and access to resources became a major source of conflict in the region.
It wasn't just about bragging rights, it was about economic dominance.
Exactly. There's evidence suggesting that Chichen Itza gained control of key cities, potentially disrupting Koba's trade networks and weakening their influence.
So it sounds like Chichen Itza might have played a role in Koba's decline, but was Koba completely abandoned?
No, not completely. Even though its power waned, it remained a center of religious and commercial activity for centuries, until the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors around 1550.
So a long, slow decline instead of a dramatic fall from grace. That's interesting. It really speaks to Koba's resilience.
It does, and it raises another fascinating question. What was daily life like for the people of Koba?
Yeah. How do they adapt to these changing circumstances? And what can we learn from their experiences?
That's a great question to ponder as we continue our deep dive into this fascinating ancient city.
All right, Minerva and Brian, are you ready to step back in time and explore the lives of the people who called Koba home?
When you're wandering through those ruins, Minerva and Brian imagine the people who lived there.
Yeah, what was life like for the everyday people of Koba?
Most of them would have been farmers tending the fields surrounding the city.
So not everyone was living in fancy palaces. What were their homes like?
Think simple houses made from wood and thatch clustered together in various
It
settlements.
sounds like a hard but fulfilling life, connected to the land and the seasons.
Absolutely. And even in their daily routines, they were surrounded by these incredible expressions of Mayan culture.
Like those elaborate stelae.
Yeah,
I bet it made you think passing those grand monuments every day.
definitely. It highlights the contrast between the lives of everyday people and the elite, the rulers, priests, and wealthy merchants.
But even with that social hierarchy, art, music, and religion played a vital role in everyone's lives.
Absolutely. Those are the things that connected them.
And speaking of art and religion, those stelae weren't just about pretty pictures.
Right, we talked about the glyphs, but what kinds of stories were they telling?
Exactly. What were they trying to convey through these carvings?
Well, the Caesars are like visual encyclopedias, capturing scenes from mythology, historical events, and even depictions of daily life.
So we might see a ruler being crowned or a god descending from the heavens.
Exactly, or even a farmer tending to his crops. It's like getting a snapshot of their world frozen in time.
And I'm particularly fascinated by the concept of cyclical time in Mayan culture. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure, unlike our linear view of time, the Maya saw time as a repeating cycle, a continuous loop of creation and destruction.
So it's like the changing seasons. Each one has its purpose and eventually gives way to the next, only to return again.
Precisely. And this belief permeated every aspect of their lives, from agriculture to religion.
So it wasn't just about days and years. It was about understanding your place in a grand cosmic order.
Exactly. And the Maya meticulously tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and stars.
Because they believed that Maya held the keys to understanding these cycles.
Exactly. They believed they could predict the future by understanding these cycles.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at those Stele, Minerva, and Brian, remember, they're not just static images.
They're reflections of a dynamic worldview, a way of life that saw time and history as an interconnected web.
And speaking of interconnectedness, remember those sac beeb?
Those ancient highways.
Right, they weren't just for moving people around.
No, they were the arteries of trade and cultural exchange connecting Coba to a wider world.
What kinds of goods were flowing through Coba?
Well, we know they were trading everyday items like salt, honey, and fish, but also luxury goods like jade ornaments and cacao beans.
Calvin. Now we're talking,
This is
those were
good.
practically currency in the Mayan world, right?
Exactly. They were highly prized, not just for making that delicious drink, but also for ceremonial and ritual significance.
So imagine those cacao beans traveling along the sac beeb, connecting Coba to cities like Tulum, and even far-flung places like Honduras.
It gives you a sense of the scale and reach of those Mayan trade networks.
It wasn't just about economics. These trade routes were also spreading ideas and culture,
Exactly. Coba was a hub of cultural exchange.
and a testament to Mayan ingenuity.
Definitely. Remember, they built and maintained these extensive networks without modern technology.
It makes you appreciate the level of planning and cooperation involved.
It does.
We-
It's really quite remarkable.
Now, I know some people might feel a little overwhelmed when they first arrive at a site as large as Coba.
Yeah, it can be a lot to take in.
So for Minerva and Brian and anyone else listening who's planning a trip to Coba, what are your top tips for making the most of their visit?
Well, first and foremost, pace yourselves. Coba is vast, and that Yucatan heat can be intense.
Right, don't try to see everything in one go.
Exactly. Pick a few key areas that pique your interest and really take the time to absorb the atmosphere.
I love that, quality over quantity.
And consider hiring a local guide. They can offer invaluable insights and stories.
That's a great idea,
Yeah.
especially if you're interested in learning more about the symbolism and the mythology.
Plus, you'll be supporting the local community. And don't forget the practicalities.
Like what?
Wear comfortable shoes, bring plenty of water and sunscreen, and maybe even a hat.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
Okay, Minerva and Brian take notes.
Yeah, these tips will help you have a truly memorable experience.
Now, back to our deep dive. We talked about the different groups of structures at Coba, like the Coba group and the Macansac group. Can you tell us a little more about what makes each of those areas unique?
Sure, the Coba group near the entrance is a great place to start. It's where you'll find the Iglesia, which offers those stunning views of the Macansac Lagoon.
So it's like standing in the city center where the important decisions were made.
Exactly. And the structures here are thought to have been used for administrative and religious purposes.
What about the Macansac group? You mentioned it was a place of spiritual significance.
It is. It's located a bit further from the entrance, and it's a quieter, more contemplative area surrounded by dense jungle.
So it's peaceful.
It is. And here you'll find a cluster of stelae and altars, many of which are exceptionally well preserved.
It sounds like the perfect place to reflect on the mysteries and beliefs of the ancient Maya.
It is. And it reminds us that Coba wasn't just a political and economic powerhouse. It was also a place of deep spirituality.
I can already feel that mystical energy calling to me.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up our exploration of Coba, I want to revisit the topic of its decline.
Okay.
We know that competition with Chichen Itza played a role, but were there any other factors that contributed to Coba's eventual fate?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of what makes archaeology so fascinating. We often have more questions than answers.
So what are some of the theories about Coba's decline?
So some archaeologists believe that environmental changes might have played a role.
Like what kind of changes?
Prolonged droughts or shifts in rainfall patterns could have impacted agricultural yields.
So nature might have had a hand in Coba's destiny as well.
It's certainly possible. The Maya were incredibly skilled at adapting to their environment, but they were also vulnerable to the forces of nature.
And those lagoons that were so crucial to Coba's early success could have also been a source of vulnerability.
Exactly. If that delicate balance was disrupted, it could have had serious consequences.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful civilizations are ultimately at the mercy of nature's whims.
It is, but it also speaks to the resilience and adaptability of the Mayan people.
They faced so many challenges throughout their history, and yet they persevered.
They did, and they left behind a legacy that continues to captivate us today.
Okay, Minerva and Brian, we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Coba.
We have.
We've explored its rise and fall, its economy and culture, its impressive infrastructure, and the lives of its people. But there's one final piece of the puzzle that I think will really spark your imagination.
Okay, what's that?
Remember, only a tiny fraction of Coba has been excavated.
Right, just 1%.
So what secrets still lie hidden beneath that jungle floor?
What treasures or insights await those who dare to venture into the unknown?
I mean, it's like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, and who knows what we might find? Maybe a new stela just waiting to be uncovered.
Or the foundations of some lost palace.
Right. It's exciting to think that you, Minerva, and Brian could stumble upon something truly remarkable during your visit.
You two brushing away the leaves, and bam, a lost masterpiece.
Huh. That would be amazing. But even if you don't make a major discovery, just being there, walking those ancient paths, it's an experience in itself.
Oh, absolutely. To stand in a place where people lived and worked centuries ago, it's like a direct connection to the past.
It is. It reminds us that the Maya weren't just some ancient civilization in a textbook.
Right. They were real people.
With hopes and dreams and challenges just like us.
And Coba is a testament to their ingenuity and resilience.
Absolutely. So Minerva and Brian, as you prepare for your adventure, remember this.
What's that?
You're not just visiting a collection of ruins.
It's more than that.
You're stepping into a living story.
A story that's still unfolding.
Exactly, with every new discovery.
So keep your eyes open.
And your mind's curious.
Who knows, maybe you'll add a new chapter to the story of Coba.
That would be incredible. Well, we can't wait to hear all about your trip when you get back.
Safe travels, Minerva and Brian.
Yeah.
And happy exploring.